This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I'm your host, Noah Taluki, and on today's episode, Lions beginning their minicamp the next couple days. Couple of storylines for that. Don't want to get into too much detail with it because, it is just a mini camp. This isn't training camp. They're not preparing for a regular season game just yet. This is a little bit of mini camp and OTAs and a little bit of stuff like that. So we won't get into too much detail, but a couple of notes for that as well. Also, Dan Campbell making some noise in the press conference last week. We'll break that down for you as well. A lot of national people were talking about that as well. Also, we talked about it last week on the show, Rocket Mortgage Classic, which is going to be July 1st through July 4th at the Detroit Golf Club, a PGA event. A couple other golfers committing. We will also have about a 9-minute interview with Bryson DeChambeau that John Macaron sent me, and we're going to play that for you as well because he was at a media day at the Detroit Golf Club just the other day as well. So hopefully everybody had a great weekend. I definitely did. It was a lot of great weather outside. Rained one day last week, but other than that, it was very, very good. And really, really good that finally this great weather is starting to pop up because, for a long stretch of time we had that cold weather. And it was kind of dampening the summer a little bit. So finally, some warmer weather, that is for sure. And it just makes the summer feel so much better. So much better. So anyways, Lions mini camp is going to be starting up. And obviously, mini camp has a little bit more attention when, you have new players or you have new coaches. And that's both of those are the cases for the Lions this season. Obviously, Dan Campbell, new head coach, Jared Goff, new quarterback, new receiving cast, a lot of new defensive players. It's just a very new-look team right now. So mini camp will get a lot more attention because this is kind of the first time where we're going to get to see some of the players in action before the summer and then, before training camp. So this is kind of like an early glimpse. Do I take this very seriously? From a coverage standpoint, not really. It's the Lions, Super Bowl aspiration, all that. No, I don't want to hear any of that. There's a couple of storylines I think are important. Am I going to do a whole breakdown of every position and all that for minicamp? No. But there's a couple of interesting storylines that I think maybe could, if nobody pays attention to minicamp, something that maybe they can keep an eye on. So my first one, and it's only a couple, but my first one really is how Jared Goff is going to progress with his wide receivers. Obviously, Jared Goff taking Matthew Stafford's role. Matthew Stafford, the 12-year veteran quarterback for the Lions, spent his entire 12-year career right here in Detroit. So, and he has a whole new crew of receivers. I mean, we mentioned it before. The only receiver that's kind of quote-unquote veteran in the room is probably Quintez Cephas. And this is only his second season in the NFL. The other guys, this is all going to be their first year on the team. Brashad Perryman, Khalif Raymond, other guys as well. I mean, Marvin Jones is gone. Kenny Golladay is gone. So I think it's important to see how Jared Goff progresses. And it's going to take time. It's going to take chemistry. And, Jared Goff, he's been to a Super Bowl before. So he obviously knows how to, connect with his receivers. This is obviously a very different situation than it was in Los Angeles. A very pass-happy offense, Sean McVay, an offensive genius, all that kind of stuff. We'll have to see how Jared Goff fits into Anthony Lynn's offense because, like I said in previous podcasts, I think the storyline of the season for the Lions, how they do, will be how Anthony Lynn can work Jared Goff and all that into this offense. So in order to do that, you have to have chemistry with your wide receivers. This is a whole new cast. Tyrell Williams also in there. These are guys that Jared Goff has never played with before. So they have to get familiar. And minicamp is a great way to do that. Now, there's all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff that they do, going to local high schools to throw and all that, to get even more chemistry. But this is where we get to see it, I guess, in the public eye. So, like I said, Brashad Perryman, Khalif Raymond, Tyrell Williams, Quintez Cephas, these are guys that he's going to really have to develop a relationship with, a chemistry with, and we'll be able to see that firsthand over in Allen Park for sure. Also, another storyline I think that's important, and I'm not really going to talk a lot about the defense. Obviously, the defense is a big one because they were historically bad last season, even worse than the 2008 Detroit Lions, the 0-16. But a big one, and we didn't really touch on this a lot the last few weeks, but will Todd Gurley sign with the Lions? There has been a lot of talk that the Lions have been in talk with his agent and with Todd himself and all that he might sign with the Lions. Remember, Todd Gurley was a former teammate in Los Angeles with Jared Goff. He would at least have chemistry a little bit already with Goff. And also, he's had some production in the National Football League. Now, am I expecting Todd Gurley, if he's signed by the Lions, to come in right away and be the starter? It'd be the Todd Gurley he was, in the first couple years of his career. No, I'm not saying that. Todd Gurley is only 26, but you can kind of see, the wear and tear has started to get to him. He struggled with injuries. The production has not been there, but he's had a history, before the injuries of production. Signing Todd Gurley, that does not mean anything with him replacing Swift as the starter. Nothing. In my opinion, nothing. And I think the coaches have even said that too. This does not, there's no competition here or anything. I think there's people out there that say, why would we sign a 26-year-old running back? I know he's young, but injuries and he's not the same. No, this has nothing to do with Todd Gurley taking over as a starter. This has everything to do with developing DeAndre Swift, having a veteran in the locker room, a guy that knows Jared Goff, a guy that can help the young guys on this team, kind of adjust to this new offense and this new style of play with Dan Campbell. I think it would help the Lions. It does not hurt. Now, the only way it would hurt the Lions is if they overpay him. I don't want Todd Gurley coming in making like $20 million, or something like that. Signing a 1-2 year deal, maybe a little less than $10 million, something like that. That's fine with me. But I don't want the Lions to be overpaying for Todd Gurley, especially because he's not a starter. And you got to remember, DeAndre Swift, the running backs right now, DeAndre Swift, Jamar Jefferson, who's the rookie 7th round pick from Oregon State, and Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is slated to be the number 2 behind Swift. So you would already have a crowded backfield, and those are some decent running backs. I mean, we have yet to see Jamar Jefferson. This is a guy that they said could be a 4th round pick, but he slid to the 7th round, so there might be some talent there. Remember, top 5 in the FBS in scrimmage yards per game last season. I know he played at Oregon State, the Pac-12, but still, I think there might be something there. I'm not saying a starter right away, but a guy that could contribute a little bit for the Lions this year. So that's more of a training camp thing. But definitely we'll be able to see his progression in training camp. But I think it's going to be interesting to see if Todd Gurley signs, because I think he could help the Lions a lot. And I'm not talking about production. I'm talking about locker room stuff. I'm talking about getting accustomed to Jared Goff, all that kind of stuff. And who knows? Maybe he does have a little bit of production left in him. Maybe he's healthier now than he was a couple years ago. Maybe he's got a little bit of those extra yards in him, if you will. Who knows? It only helps. I don't think this hurts unless you overpay him. All right, another important news with the Lions. I don't know if this is very important, but I just thought it was interesting. So Dan Campbell, he had a press conference last week, and he was announced as the Grand Marshal of the Detroit Grand Prix, which is the Formula One race that takes place on Belle Isle every year. And shout out, by the way, to Father Munns, the president of U of D Jesuit, my alma mater. Last year, I believe, he got to say the invocation, like the opening prayer at the Grand Prix. So shout out to the Cubs for that. But Dan Campbell, announced as the Grand Marshal, he comes into the press conference, and he is wearing a racing helmet, one of those Formula One helmets. And, he kind of greeted everyone, said, it's an honor to be the Grand Marshal of the Detroit Grand Prix. And then he took it off and said, all right, ask any questions. And he got some backlash for that. When I first saw the video, I laughed. I just thought it was just funny, entertaining, a little lighthearted to start the press conference. No big deal. But people were hating on it. I mean, Mike Valenti called him a cartoon. Come on. Dan Campbell, we've seen this. We've been seeing this ever since he just got hired by the Lions a couple months ago. I mean, the biting the kneecaps off. A lot of great sound bites that Dan Campbell has had. But the thing with Dan Campbell is that's him being him. And he's made it very clear. I don't go off a script. Nobody's feeding me information to say and all that. This is who I am. This was, in my opinion, this wasn't some media ploy to, bring attention to himself and all that. No, how he treated that was just a little lightheartedness. Oh, but we've seen it before. Whatever Lions coach 15 years ago came in a Harley Davidson or, no, I don't want to hear any of that about this. This is very different. Now, obviously, does Dan Campbell have a lot of pressure put on him? Yes. There's no doubt about that. But this is just Dan being Dan. I don't have a problem with it. I thought it was funny. Just something lighthearted to start the week. Plus, it's really cool that he got to be the Grand Marshal. He's pumped about it. I just don't see what what the ruckus is about with this. Dan Campbell is not a cartoon. I mean, he has to prove it, though. But this is just lightheartedness. Just him being him. Players already like to play for him, too. And he's, they're starting to mold this team in his image. Guys that are tough, nasty, aggressive. That's the guys that Dan Campbell wants. Really embodying the city of Detroit. But we'll have to see how minicamp goes. And like I said, take minicamp a little bit with a grain of salt, but it is interesting to some of these storylines from Lions minicamp for sure. All right, so we're going to have a interview from Bryson DeChambeau in a couple minutes for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Last week we started talking about it. Phil Mickelson, he committed to the RMC, if you will, and that's big because that gives the Rocket Mortgage Classic even some more star power. Every year they're getting more and more quality golfers. The first year they had some like Ricky Fowler, Bubba Watson, but, not as many. Now they're starting to get more and more, which is big because, a lot of fans like to see these golfers. And I think Phil's going to be the biggest draw at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, at least for right now. Another golfer that did commit this past week was Hideki Matsuyama. And that's a big one as well. He played in it 2 years ago when I went, but he did win the Masters this past year. So that's another big one as well. I know people will come out to see him play. But it's big. It's big, and I know they want to continue to grow the Rocket Mortgage Classic, like I've talked about before. The 3-1-3 Challenge, holes 14, 15, 16, very unique. Trying to get it like a unique little hole, like the Waste Management Open in Phoenix, like the 17th hole, or the 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass, 16th at the Waste Management Open. I think it's really, really interesting. But Bryson DeChambeau, so he won it last year, and he's one of the top 10 players in the world in golf. He actually was at the Detroit Golf Club just the other day, and he did an interview with a lot of the local Detroit media members, and Metro Detroit Golfers, which is a big Facebook group on Facebook, and the main guys for that, Kyle Bogenschlutz and Mike Sullivan, they are two former 97 Won the Ticket hosts. I'm sure some of you guys remember those names. They kind of founded this Metro Detroit Golfers Facebook page, and they actually got to interview him. I would recommend checking that video out as well. Really nice conversation with them. But Bryson, it's interesting because right now Bryson is in this whole feud with Brooks Koepka and all this stuff. And, he made it very clear that he does not want to talk about any of that in it. But I will admit, it is interesting to hear. And, I golf a lot. And, I like watching a lot of golf videos and I've really been into golf. I started playing when I was like 6 or 7, kind of had a lull of not playing, and then when I got to high school, I started playing again, and I've been playing a lot after college and all that. But he takes a very scientific approach to the game, and it's very interesting because it's kind of like a new wave of golf. With the different ball speeds and calculations and slopes on putts and all this stuff, all this technology, and he's very vocal about it, all this technology that he's taking advantage of. And in the golf world, they really like it. They think it's kind of like the future of golf. And Bryson has really taken that to another level. Swing speed is another one, the golf simulators that he can work out on. And, like he has this machine where he can change the slope of, like a fake green to practice his putts and the trajectory and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of YouTube videos of him explaining all that. Go check that out as well. But Bryson did an interview at the Detroit Golf Club. Here it is from one of the best golfers in the world, Bryson DeChambeau.
You talked about hitting it a little bit longer. How are you feeling about your game heading into the U.S. Open?
Yeah, it's progressing. It's on an upward trend, I would say. From last week, I didn't have the best of weeks. I made too many mistakes, but again, as you can see, my wedging I feel really comfortable with, and if I can get the driver going the way I know I can, like I did last U.S. Open, I'll have a great chance for next week.
Talk about the whole Brooksy situation.
Oh, that's something else that's for another time. I would say this is for the Rocket Mortgage here, and I want to show as much support for the Rocket Mortgage right now compared to talking about that. That's something the tour can handle.
What's the key hole that you feel like you really got to come back and master in order to take your game one step further?
You're talking about just in regards to my game?
Your game in this course.
Okay, this golf course. Number 8 was difficult for me last year. For some reason, I didn't really take advantage of that hole where I could drive it and hit it into a bunker one of the days, hit it over the green one of the days. It was diabolical for me. So if I could take care of that and drive it like I did last year and putt it like I did last year, I'll have a great chance again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Bryson, welcome back to Detroit. Great tournament last year. You're kind of at the white hot center of the golf world right now, not sports world. Can I ask you, what is your relationship like with Brooks? And do you think a rivalry like yours is good for golf?
I think, a good jesting rivalry is good for the game of golf. Nothing too extreme, but at the same point in time, that's all outside of the spectrum of what we're here for today. And I think, the most important thing is to be talking about what Rocket Mortgage is doing for the 313 area. And I think the Change the Course initiative is something that's bigger than the game of golf, compared to a rivalry.
And what is your relationship with? How would you describe it?
Oh, fine. I've personally got no issue. It's something that he's up for discussion. If you want to talk to him about that, you can, but I've got no issues.
What does Detroit mean to you coming back here?
Well, it defines progress for me. I think looking at it as an opportunity for things to continually get better in the 313 area. And when I came here last year, I saw some places, and I've seen even just coming in this yesterday, the changes that have already been made and the looks of this place. It's definitely different. It's a lot. I would say it's a lot more on the upward trend, and I see places that are just thriving now compared to last year. So I'm excited about continuing to be an ambassador for the Rocket team and looking forward to changing that digital divide.
You said you were hitting it longer now?
Yeah.
How much longer are you hitting it?
Well, yesterday I was pretty much chipping it at Memorial and had over 190 ball speed every single time. And on 7, I kind of let one a little bit loose, and I was up to 197 ball speed, and that's higher than what I had here at the Rocket Mortgage last year.
What about driving distance? For the lay fan, how much farther are you driving?
Probably 20 yards farther than what I was doing, I would say, a couple months ago, and then last year probably about 10 yards.
What's your max? What do you max
well,
out at?
I hope I can get to 200 mile an hour ball speed. I mean, that's like a 350, 345 carry with no wind. If it's downwind, I could be flying 360, 370. So hopefully I can do something like that. That'd be fun.
Can you talk about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the game of golf right now?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things. We have to, golf has always been a very expensive sport, and giving it more opportunities to grow, we have to include any and everybody. And I think, one of the things that's great about this community is, what Rocket Mortgage is doing in regards to the digital divide and providing people opportunities to play the game out here. And I'd also say, one of the things is Topgolf. That's a big deal. And just being able to provide people with opportunities is one of the things that's going to help progress humanity and as a whole. I think it's the most important thing we could ever do for us in general.
You're here to comment on the unfortunate incident with John Rahm over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
What's it feel like to lose $1.6 million?
Well,
a heartbeat?
I don't know what to say about that. I don't... Man, it's PGA Tour protocol, obviously. That's, again, something the PGA Tour is going to have to deal with. I just feel bad for John. I mean, he's asymptomatic, and one of those things that he didn't know. How are you supposed to know, right? And so all you can do is really feel for him and pray for them and make sure that they're okay and they continue to be safe and do the right thing in regards to following CDC guidelines and everything. And there's not much you can really do in that situation. Maybe he could have played on his own. I don't know how that would have been possible, but something along those lines. I mean, you got to somehow, I would think, let him play in some regard.
You think
Bryson, I think Detroit is identified with you because Detroit's known for like a work hard mentality.
Yeah.
And during Corona, I've seen your viewership, your YouTube videos, your Twitch streams, but you worked your butt off, and I think that's why Detroit is taking such a liking to you, Phil Mickelson, because you guys are known as some of the hardest workers. Mm-hmm. Can you just describe what like a day in the life of your speed training and what that's like? You don't have to give every minute, but tell people how hard you work to achieve what you have achieved.
I appreciate that question, by the way. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of work, and I'll continue to keep working. I go down a bunch of rabbit holes, but one thing I can say is that Kyle Berkshire helped me out a lot in this regard, in regards to speed training. He told me what he did in regards to how much effort he put into it to gain speed. In college, he was 118 mile an hour swing speed, and now he's upwards of 150. How do you do that? I mean, it's insane, right? And so what he showed me on the practice range was incredible. He talked about doing 2-3 a day practice speed training sessions, which encompasses an hour and a half each speed training session of hitting around 150 to 200 golf balls at max speed, as hard as you physically can. And there are points in time where you feel like you're going to pass out, or you feel like you're going to faint, you feel like you're going to fall over. But it's in those moments where you catch this second wind and your nervous system can just explode. It's just free. And when that happens, it happens probably on the second speed training session usually. You just feel like you're light and you can break speeds like you've never broken them before. But again, it's a very dangerous thing, and you got to be very careful with it too. So whenever you're working super hard, there's always that risk of injury, and you got to make sure you're taking care of yourself on that end. But again, it'll be probably a full day ordeal where you're doing 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon of speed training, and by the end of that, you're waxed.
So it's like football doing 2 a days, but you're doing 3 a days.
Correct. Well, I've only done 1 3 a day once, and that was brutal. I've done plenty of 2 a days, and that's enough for me. I don't want to do anything else.
And was your problem like that you were starting to hook the ball a little bit, and that's where you came up with that left elbow stick straight out? Or something?
There's a lot of things I've tried to. Look, by no means have I figured out the swing. Obviously, last week I still didn't hit it my best, but yeah, there are things that you can do with your body that allow you to keep the face a lot square for a lot longer, and that allows you to be more consistent at those higher speeds.
But as hard as you work, do you think? With as hard as you work out and work with the golf swing, do you think you'll win a major when you're 50?
Kyle told me this a little while ago. He said the more speed you get early in your career, the more you can sustain it for longer periods of time. So, for example, once I get to 50, I hope my ball speed's gonna be around like 185, 180. Well, that's a lot more than any other 50-year-old can do. And if what Phil's doing, obviously, on the Champions Tour when he won a couple in a row, was proof right there what he's doing with his speed training at his age. So if I can continue to go up and sustain that speed, I think it will elongate my career and not hurt it.
Did his win kind of open some eyes on the tour about maybe people can do this longer?
Oh, 100%. I mean, golf is this amazing game where you have people shooting their age all the time, well into their 70s and even 80s, and this is the amazing part about the game of golf, is that it brings so many people of different race, different color, different ethnicity, everything together, where we can all work on being the best version of ourselves and play this game that we all love and just enjoy outdoors.
Have you had the conversations with Tiger Woods?
Oh yeah, plenty of conversations. I mean,
comments about it?
He's doing a lot better. He's in a better place now. I think it's a long recovery for him, no doubt about it. But he'll push through it and he'll come out for the better.
Hey, Bryson, back to Detroit. What would you give the amateur guys to play this course? What would the advice be that can't hit it as far as you, but how to play this course efficient?
The most important thing is trying to get it in the fairway. That's number one. And 3-putting avoidance is key out here. If you can just try and lag it up there to 2-3 feet compared to hitting it past or trying to go for it, that's going to save you a lot of shots in this golf course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
And thank you to John Macaroon for getting me that audio when he was present over there at the Detroit Golf Club. Really appreciate him for doing that. But yeah, very interesting interview from Bryson, answering a lot of questions from the Detroit media, and it's going to be fun. I already got my tickets for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I will be there on Thursday, July 1st. And I always like going on the Thursday. 2 years ago, I went on the Thursday as well. It's always better, in my opinion, to go on one of those days because you get to see all the golfers. You never know. In golf, you never know who's going to make the cut, who's not. So being able to see them early, is in my opinion, is better. Now, the final rounds have more cachet, if you will, I guess. The trophy ceremony in the final round and televised and July 4th weekend, all that. But I prefer to go on a Thursday, and there's not as many people, and it's I like that personally. So 2 years ago when I experienced it for the first time, and we'll be covering this throughout the next couple weeks. And I'll pretty soon I'll be explaining about all my my adventures over there at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. And last year I was able to play the course for my birthday, and that was a lot of fun. So I in the week after is when they had the tournament last. So it was really cool because watching it on TV, I was like, oh yeah, I remember I hit my ball in this hole and that, like in this location on this hole, So it was really, really fun, and really happy that I was able to do that last year. And it's fun, and if you're going and you've never been to a PGA event, be prepared to be walking around all day. It's a lot of walking, and a lot of people either follow a golfer or they just stick to one hole. So it's kind of like two different groups of people that are there. So it'll be interesting for sure when July 1st comes around. But that'll do it for this week's edition of Open Mic Night. Make sure to check out all the other amazing content on the podcast network. We have the Doc and Jock podcast, the Wrestling podcast, Michigan podcast, Fan Report, all those podcasts, very, very good to listen to. And John Macaroon with some excellent coverage on the Sports Illustrated for the Lions. Does a great job with that. I'm sure he'll be covering minicamp very well, so make sure to check out his website over there, SI Lions, as well. But thanks again, folks, for tuning in, and make sure to tune in next week only on Open Mic Night.